romance something something something. But another one was called the Heart of Aleppo, which is about the Syrian war and just about this little boy who's surviving the Syrian war, and he gets shoved into his car because his family wants him safe. The car, like the driver of the car, gets shot. Like, it's so good, and I was like crying at the end of it. Like, it was, oh my god. So anyway.
You mean, was your other favorite Breathless, in love with an alpha billionaire?
No, oh my god, that was the most horrible book. I'm like, this book is shit. It's so bad. I'm like, you are a woman of color who's writing in the stereotypical way that all other people do for Black women.
That's not good.
So it's all like, you ain't know me, or blah blah blah, and she drops the F-bomb or the N-bomb in there because there's like a white girl who doesn't want her boyfriend being with a Black girl. Like, I was like, this is so bad. Like, this is so bad.
So, are you recording like all of this?
No, I just started like a minute ago. Yeah. No, I was just like, okay, it's like, hey guys, welcome back. It's been a hot minute since we've been together, so we have a lot to catch up on. So please forgive us. We're gonna have some time just chatting about our lives because a lot has happened.
Are you
know?
Now?
Yeah, well, it's recording, but like it was just. But anyways, Amanda was talking about what's Voracious Readers. It's like a thing where you can sign up for it and it's free. You have to do it's all new books, right? And you just have to write reviews for books that you read.
They're some of them I think are new authors and or new books. So a few of them are like their debut novels, and you just check off the genres you like. If you like them all, you can check them all off. I will warn you though that I regularly get, I want to say between 7 to 10 a week. So okay. I've turned down quite a few in the ones that I have. Like, I've got about 13 to 15 on my iPad now, but I've had a lot more offers. But you don't have to take every one. You choose what you like, and they'll give you a blurb of it before you click on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, essentially what you're doing is just you're the person putting in the early reviews for all of these books so that people will read them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what's kind of cool is the fact that they do inundate you with a whole bunch, and that you can essentially choose what you're interested in. It's like just browsing the library shelf, right? You're like, oh, I'm not really interested. Oh, no. Oh, how about this one? Yeah, okay.
And it's a very, very safe way of doing it right now in our current COVID-19 thing, right? Everything's digital, so you don't have to like worry about, people touching books and stuff,
I know, but like my entire TBR is like library books. So it was like, okay, just a little bit derailed.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah. I really, like, other than the book club book, I really haven't been reading much. Like, I've been like between teaching online and trying to navigate what RCM has been doing, changing all the exams to online. I have been like, I'm surprised I'm not grading right now. I've been so frustrated with the process. It's been so difficult, and they just made it overly complicated, and my students are freaking out. And I was like, guys, you'll survive, but I might not. But yeah, other than doing that, it's just been like, so Philip and I are actually working from home right now. So like, he's in the bedroom, I'm in the other room. So we're just like, we're just like spending so much time together, right? So we just always go on walks after. We're like, you know what?
Oh,
like, that's nice.
So we do have that, but like, it's a lot of it's just like, you know what? I've been reading and like kind of watching a lot of people being like, during this time, if you want to just relax, then just fucking relax, right? If you want to be lazy, just be lazy. You cope however you want to cope. Don't feel bad about being lazy. Don't feel bad about reading that book, right? Don't feel bad about doing the stuff that you normally would do because it's not a normal circumstance. And like, you know what? I like that philosophy. I'm just going to be a lazy motherfucker.
I will say that I have just been absolutely crushing my Goodreads like reading challenge so far.
That's great. That's good though. I mean, like,
yeah. Right before the wedding, I was 2 books behind my goal, and I was like, no. And now I'm like 9 books ahead of it. It's like, okay.
Changed my goal. I figured out how to do it. I changed my thing to a higher number because I'm just, It's that, and I'm also reading books for possible Langley Books of the Year next year. So I also have like a stack of like middle school reads and stuff to get through as well. And Moby Dick, I've had since January.
Yeah, okay, that's crazy. I mean, I tried reading Moby Dick, and I was like, I'll read this in 15 years when I appreciate it.
This is how far I've gotten since January. This is where I've gotten since January.
Man, I wish I had a copy. I would join you.
I would lend you mine, except it's going to take me 2 years to finish it.
It's Moby Dick, A Tale of Two Cities, and what was the other one? The Epic of Gilgamesh. Are the three that, like, those are the three I was just like, I read the first 15 pages. I was like, you know what? Enough.
Oh.
David Copperfield isn't that great either. Also like 900 pages.
Though, a really thick classic that was actually really good was The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, you mentioned this last time. I actually bought it on my ebook. I'm going to read it soon. Yeah, you mentioned this. I remember this.
It's long, it's verbose, but it seriously is like the best revenge story ever.
I have it. I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
You just keep on stacking more and more books in front of your goals. You know?
So just to show how snobby I was when I was reading it, I was listening to I forget his first name. Is it Jean Lully?
I think it's Jean, yeah.
Yeah, so I was listening to Lully because I was like, no, it's the same era.
That's awesome. But anyways, welcome back, everybody. It's been a long time. This was supposed to be in March, but things happened in March. So we're here, we're finally here. And it was my fault the last time we were supposed to meet on Saturday, but yeah, stuff happened. But everything's fine now. We are here, we are safe, we are all at home, quarantining. Karen is a married woman. And when she changed her last name on Facebook, I was like, who the hell is this person? I don't know this person.
You're not the only person who messaged me and was like, oh my goodness, have I been hacked? Is there a way to put, like, I tried to put penhouse/Savory and it was just
too much work.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But like I was like, I for a minute I was like, I know a Karen, but that's not her last name, unless she's been lying to me this whole time. But she is now a married woman. She sits on acreages of land and living the farm wife dream.
Oh yes, we just said goodnight to the chickies.
Aww.
They are so awkward looking right now.
I was like kind of like halfway between fuzz and like feathers kind of thing.
Yeah, so like they have the down on their head, and then they've got mostly adult feathers, and then they have just the like stubs of the feathers growing, and it just looks really yeah.
But like, yeah, no, we had a conversation about this offline already, and Amanda and I just lost our fucking minds. But
I want to cheer a sheep.
You can, one of these, and Amanda and I just talked about the whole Horgan thing and all the lifting of certain stuff. It's just like, if that actually happens, we might be able to go visit Karen in a safe, socially distant way,
Yeah, literally, you could stand 20 meters away from me and still have room.
Yeah, it's like, Amanda, lift its hind leg. You shear it up. You go against the grain.
And then we'll get on ye old spinning wheel.
Yeah. Okay. So it didn't take me that long to find that spinning wheel, but I was like, oh, it's in Langford.
Pick it up.
I'll learn to spin. I'll do it.
So funny. You're just talking about it, and then suddenly you post this ad, and you're just like, "Look, you can buy one."
It's in Langley, apparently too.
Yeah, it's in Langley, Coquitlam, Portugal.
And go get it.
Yeah, go get it. It'll be like, well, it'll be our housewarming gift to Karen when we go visit her.
Oh boy.
But yeah, we've all been kind of inundated with different things. I think the ladies have been doing online schooling, right, in different aspects and stuff, and that's been interesting to navigate. I don't know. I mean, I'm dealing with like one person at a time, and I'm like this morning I was teaching a student, And I was like going over his notes, and he was like, Matthew, I'm Jaden, not Aaron. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm literally going insane right now. I don't remember what day. I was like, I just didn't even register his face. I just thought he was Aaron. And the day was just like downhill from there. I just couldn't remember anything. And I was like, I went to the next student. I was like, I'm sorry. I know we were supposed to do stuff. I wrote it down. I just, my mind doesn't want to read anything. Play me something beautiful, please.
It's hard. I have it. There's no classes on what I'm doing. It's just I offer a weekly learning opportunity for all my kids once a week. But then at the end of the week, I'm checking 16 divisions worth of learning opportunities and responding to every one of them. And whether they do them or not is like whatever. But like the ones that do it, you're like, okay, oh sweet, 21 out of 29 answered. Okay, cool that they did it. But now I have to write 21 responses to all their stuff. That's awesome. So what I did was I bought myself a wireless keyboard because I am dying a little bit right now.
Yeah, like Philip and I have been very like a little bit more kind with our budget. Like we go out a lot more for food, or sorry, we order in a lot more. We don't make as much, which is like, you know what? Like we could be saving this money. Like this like while we still have our jobs, let's enjoy pizza. Let's enjoy sushi because we don't know. We're not sure, right? So like, but until then, we still have our health. We're still safe, So at least there's that. And we have a book to discuss today. Yep. So the book today that we're discussing is my choice. It's called Under the Visible Light. I think her name is Kim. Is it Echlin? Echlin? It's ECH. It's Echlin or I don't know. It's
any of those could be possible.
Yeah. And this was actually recommended to me. I was at Russell Books in the old location, and it was recommended to me by one of the staff there. They're like, "Oh, you should try this book." I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." So I actually didn't buy it that day, but I put it in my Goodreads. But she was like saying how like she used to be a huge jazz buff, and it was recommended to her by one of her teachers when she was a little bit younger, or like she's like younger. Like I was younger 2 years ago. It's a relatively newish book, but
after like 2 years ago, I read this book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I'm sure she was like 18, right? Yeah. So like younger was 2 years ago for her. I was like, oh, are you rubbing it in because I'm 34? But
the same age, Poon.
But why don't I start with my kind of thoughts and feelings on it? I started it and I was like, oh, this is going to be a really easy read because it flowed very well. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of things that I had to like sit back and do some research on before I could get past some of the characters, because immediately I was like, oh, these characters are really hard to understand because like this is not what I want a female heroine to be. I want her to be more big and bombastic and like that kind of stuff. I was like, wait, this is a period piece. Really, this is talking about a certain time when these people did not have those types of rights or did not feel like they had the voice or the power to do things. So I had to sit back and be like, all right, so I can't think of this as like Wonder Woman, right? I have to think of this as like during this time, this is what happened, right? When they were Pakistan, I think they were in Pakistan, right? Like women were just owned. They were just objects to be given away, right? For arranged marriages or whatever. And that's what happened. It was like, the woman got away, like was married, and then her family would make money off of her, right? And then the whole like the whole Asian, like the Chinese, like Canadian and whatever, that whole aspect, like, and I was like, okay, great. So I have to take a few decades back, go back to that time period, think about it that way. And then I got past it because there were so many times where I would read them talking about this and they would just struggle with expressing themselves, right? But they would always be like, no, but I have to protect my children, I have to protect my husband, right? Because of him and his arrogance, but we need to see our family as like a perfect family because I don't want to bring him shame. And I was like, oh, this is so hard. But I think for me, getting back into that headspace made me realize, right, this was the best that they could do given the cards that they were dealt.
Yeah.
And like for them to actually still struggle and have some victories was really cool to read. It was really interesting because I thought that the two characters would have way more of a connection, like way more of a like described friendship. But literally, they were really good friends, but they just kind of meandered in and out of each other's lives, and they just touched each other in really special ways. But it never really developed any more than just that. It was always just these two people, and they just kind of sort of intertwined, and almost like they didn't really even need it to be together in the same book. They could have been just separate books, and then you just name them in certain places.
I might disagree with that because they tell a similar story of what it's like to be a minority trying to get into the music business while also struggling sort of with a home life. And so I would say they parallel each other. And even if they didn't meet, even if they met just once, it brought the idea that the stories were parallel, right? It just I agree with you in that I feel like I was kind of 75% of the way through, and I'm like, they haven't met each other yet. When is this happening?
Yeah, and I think like it's an interesting friendship that they have in relationship. It actually reminds me a lot of the friendship that I have with one of my friends, where we don't talk very often, like or even like with you guys, like we don't talk very often, but when we do, it's like nothing has changed. It's just like it's just the next time we meet, it's the next time we meet, it's the next time we meet, as opposed to one of those friendships that you see them every day. And then like later when the last like 50 pages, that friendship becomes pretty important, but like, yeah, like it was a pretty steep kind of closeness that they had, which was kind of cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of this book, do you think it would be easier for us to talk about like the characters separately, or like the first third of the book, the second third, and because in my ebook they split it into 3 sections, like quote unquote 3 kind of distinct periods of time. So it's like before marriage, and then they had the kids, and then post, like when the kids were older, kind of thing.
I would split the characters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And discuss them separately.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about Catherine first then, and then we'll go to Masa. So Catherine, really interesting, because I was actually talking to Philip about this, because even during our parents' time, mixed marriages between like Chinese and white were very uncommon, and especially in the Chinese community, it would have been looked down upon. It would have been something that was not okay. So for me, like that resonated a little bit with me, because I knew like family friends who were ridiculed because, what, you couldn't find a good enough Chinese husband, you had to find a white husband, right? And those are things that were just readily said around the dinner table when I was growing up. And like, unfortunately for me, I didn't understand that was an issue until I was older, because that was just normal for me, because I didn't see mixed couples when I was growing up. Like my neighborhood was predominantly white. So, and like, I was one of maybe 6 Chinese kids in my school growing up, and all of them had, we were all from the same race and culture. So I never really started doubting that until high school, when people started dating each other and they didn't care about color. And I was like, oh, this is a weird thing. But for her, I sometimes forgot that Catherine was actually half Chinese.
Yeah.
Like they made a huge deal of it at the very beginning, but they said that, actually, it's very lucky for you because you don't look ethnic.
Yeah, so she's passing white, I guess that's what they call.
Yeah, they call it
exotic white.
Yeah.
And but sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, like I think it's just like the sadness of just the fact that like her mother really loved her father, but I don't think it was like I don't know, like the circumstance, they didn't really talk much about it, but it felt like he wasn't really 100% there, right? And then when he left, he was just like, this is too hard, I need to go by, right? And then just left, right?
I wonder if he couldn't be 100% there because he knew he had a wife, right, back in China. So like I think he kind of knew. And you know how I was gonna say, as the only white person here, but I was gonna say, but Chinese, like what you're saying, is they're very like you marry your wife, your husband, right, and you're very like you stick to that
Yeah.
And you don't bring dishonor.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's true.
It's true. And coming from like, even like Poon said, like even in our generation, I very distinctly remember when I was a kid that when we go to church, I was always introduced to my grandpa's friends' like grandsons. So like a lot of my friends were these little Chinese boys that I only ever saw at like Sunday school or whatever. And we grew up together for a good chunk of time, but it never occurred to me until later when mom was like, we really hope that you would start dating so and so and so and so. I'm like, really? And there was always like, they're like, yeah, they were literally these two boys that they would be invited to everything that my grandpa was invited to, and I was always there, and we always were friends. But that whole like even coming to Canada, they still had their
reservations. Yeah.
They had their, and then I married Mike.
You rebel. I mean, I'm dating a man, so
And a white man.
But I thought what was interesting about Catherine was that so both of their stories, like it was like almost so right now in one of the history classes I'm teaching, we're talking about Haydn and Mozart. Haydn was mostly kind of self-taught. He had some teachers. Mozart was rich. So his father was educated. He had the best teachers. Catherine was the Haydn, right? She was extremely gifted and talented, but she really didn't have the money to pay for education. She just learned it herself. She picked it up and just someone gave her a book and she just started like just hitting the notes until she found it and started being able to grab music. And we're like, oh, this is really cool, right? There is someone here where she just had a natural gift for hearing and listening and being able to put her thoughts into the keyboard and onto paper like later on, right? And then like
it makes her an ideal jazz musician because
Yeah.
like most of even just like improvisation, you don't necessarily have to have the theory, but if you have the ear, you basically pick up. Because I think there were a couple times that she would just go up and she would just start playing with the band. Like that's a different level of musicianship that can do that.
Yeah. And considering how uncertain her life always is, and how she's going from one place to another, she has one kid, she has two kids. Her husband like weaves in and out. Is he actually her husband? Did they actually get married?
Partner,
like weaving in and out, being like, hey baby, what's up? I'm good for a week and then I'll see you in 6 months. Like
that was crazy, right? Like I mean, like not to mention like just her decisions, right? I think that's what I think that's where I agree with Karen. Like you by comparing the two and their decisions, you can see like for example, she decided I'm moving to New York, I'm taking my kids with me. That's the end of that. I have an opportunity. If the father wants to come see them, great. If not, I don't need you, right? So it's just that whole like, I want out of here. I don't want to deal with mom anymore. I'm sick and tired of, was it Hamilton or London? I can't remember where Hamilton, was it?
Something in Ontario.
Yeah, Hamilton. And she's like, this town is going nowhere. Like New York, there's a gig. I'm gonna go, right? And she just went for it, even with kids, right?
Yeah.
But like just like her, I guess like her kind of fake it till you make it attitude at the beginning where she was like underage, right? So she just dressed like she was overage and just played, right? Mm-hmm. And like people found her and they loved playing with her. And it kind of spoke to the whole like, if you have talent and you're willing to just show up to things, right? People will remember who you are and they'll recommend you to places. Like the music world isn't really that like, that cliquey. Yeah. You just have to like, especially in the jazz world, just show up, play well, work well with everyone, and people will recommend you to put the people.
Yeah.
I also found it interesting reading her story and how, not that she didn't care, but the whole like, okay, well, here's the babysitter. I'll see you guys at 5 a.m. And the kids were like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think, I mean, like for her, it was like, there was so much that she wanted to do on her own, right? Yeah. And she had thought that like by having like T around, that he would pick up, right? Do certain things around the house and be around and be supportive so that she could still like, go and do her music while he does his music, right? That didn't work out. And unfortunately, like, I mean, and the thing is like, I don't think she's a very unique story. A lot of single parents will do that, right? Like the kids will have to grow up really fast. They have to take care of themselves, right? Because, mama got to make money, like, mama's got to work, right? And for her, it's unfortunate because all of her gigs were late in the evenings, always on the weekends, right? Up to 3 or 4 a.m. and stuff like that. Like if her career was more like teaching, right? Like Maza's, right? Then maybe she would have been able to juggle parenting a little bit better, but she couldn't. She wasn't allowed to, and there was no way she could bring her kids to the club, right?
Yeah, but Maza's had a different. She had I don't know. It pained me to read her story. It was just like really hard, and not that it was bad, but reading it was just like, oh my god, I feel just bad for you. And her story isn't exactly is again also not unique. Like unfortunately, there's a lot of marriages and history there. But anyway, we'll go back to Catherine. Sorry.
No, it's okay. What are your thoughts on like the relationship that Catherine had with her partner? Like essentially, like they were mad in love for each other, right? And they always kind of just like circled in and out of each other. But what they had and what they connected with was the fact that like when they made music, they dug deep, you know? Like they just knew each other's groove and stuff, and it made it hot and sexy. Because I was like, I guess, like for me, I don't know if that would be enough to keep a person around. It's just like, oh, we made really good music together, but you're never around. You're high on drugs. You have other women, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like for her, it was like what?
Yeah, usually when you get women who have those types of relationships, it's that they don't value themselves as much to say. I mean, because it's difficult. As soon as you put children, the man's never going to be completely gone. He's always going to be present, whether or not he's actually there. He's going to be present because he's the father of the children. But I mean, she should have given herself just a little bit of like just leave. I mean, she did. She tried to leave him several times, but just I don't know. And she explained it. She was like, "Oh, we have a love that's just like so love," and you're like, "I don't think that's love, but okay."
Yeah. They had that. I found it's one of those like that. What's that saying? The distance makes the heart grow fonder. That was like the epitome of what the relationship was. It's like, all right, I'm in town, babe. We're gonna have hot sex for 3 days, and then I'll see you in 6 months, and you'll still be wanting me. It's like that perpetual drawn out honeymoon stage of a relationship where you never get to a point where you're living together long enough to find like the little quirks and the fights that you have when you first start being actually together. So
maybe they both didn't want that. Like maybe they wanted the like that they would get together, it'd be super passionate, and then you know how like some artists can be. I need to feed my emotions. You're like, oh my goodness, it's just drama for the sake of drama.
I think it's just hard because we only got her side of the story, right? So so from her, it was just like he's never around. Like he's gone for years. Like I mean, and like I said, like I think it's like the whole like. We were brought up in a completely different era where we were taught to be like, to be feminist and think about that as equality and equity and everything, right? It's like, bitch, you should have found a new man, yo, right? Like anyone would have been better than that mess of a bag, But like, I think like I said, like for me, I had to always go back and be like, you know what? She was literally at one point just being like, do I have food for tonight? Can I make rent for next month? So she had no time to think about letting him go. She was just so busy raising kids. And the reality was like she didn't. Yeah. Like if she didn't raise the kids, they would starve. If she didn't make money, no one was going to make money. Someone had to do it. And she decided that she was going to do it all herself. Right. So I think for her, it was just like, great, he's here. We have sex. That's great. And I still have feelings. And there's all these unresolved things, but it doesn't matter because I'm making it. I'm making it work. I'm struggling and I hate that he's not here, but I'm still doing it, right? And in the end, like close to the end, he's jealous of her because she can write music, but he can only just play other people's music, right? He's like, I wish I had that skill, right? And then she makes some snarky remarks. He's like, well, if you stuck around, right? Because he was always questioning her. It's like, how come you're writing about these nuns? How come you're writing about this old lady? How come you're writing about this stuff? And she's like, well, these are the things that are happening in my life.
Yeah.
respond to me like, honestly, be like, if you were around more, I would write more about us, but you aren't around more. So you got that first song and that's it.
Yeah.
I think that was the thing that I really liked about the overall, I guess, theme of the book, which was in the title, the idea that they weren't just women, but they were women of minority as well. So it was like, what women of minority in this time period trying to get into the music scene. Like, it was just this really fascinating, like, their journey and the way that the way that they were being challenged. Like, Catherine's husband would just like walk into gigs and he would be like, hey, how's it going? And he's like super high, whereas she's like, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna like play and then I'm gonna go home and like be with my children. And it was just like a whole other level, but she was better. She just had the talent.
And fighting their own traditions of what they're supposed to do versus what they want to do. Like, I find they're both strong in their own way, as different as how they've grown up and how they've gone through life with families and whatnot. But their whole not rebellion, but this whole, you should do this, and they're like, no, I will do this my own way, and finding their voice through the music and through all that stuff too.
Like what Matt said earlier, where he was saying, I wanted this bombastic character, but what you get instead is like this quiet strength that just ripples on the surface. And like you said, it's strong, but it's a different kind of strong than
But I find Catherine had more of that, like, this is me, this is what I'm gonna do. Mom, I'm going to New York, screw you guys, I'm taking the kids. Or Masa was more of the ones like, okay. But you can see the wheels turning and the cogs going in her head, but the outside veneer, right?
Yeah, I think it's like it's the kind of like the experience makes the person, right? So like Catherine was always looked down upon. Her mom was always looked down upon. So she had to constantly fight. She had to fight to be who she was, right? Whereas Masa was brought up in a very sheltered lifestyle. She was expected to be a certain way. And her parents growing up, I mean, we're jumping to a different character, but like, you know, like they just grew up completely differently. So it made sense for one of them to just break out and try to like just fight all the norms, and the other one to be like constantly being like, culture, but like I'm in a different culture, but like I still want to hold on to my culture, but like I want this new life, but I, you know, like constantly like the inner turmoil of like want to do something but being fearful that the consequences were so big, right? But it is. I think what was something else I was going to bring up about Catherine? I thought what was interesting was like just through sheer will, right? There was some like she was really, really, really gifted, but like literally she said like every week I would leave a message. When am I playing? When am I recording? When am I playing? When am I recording? Right? To the point where finally the person's like, all right, come on. Okay, there's these 3 ladies that are coming in. You can be a 4th. They're going to be amazing. And she's like, yep, I got in, and they loved her. Right. But it took her just every week, persistence, right? Like knowing that she's hot shit, knowing that she deserved this break. She needed that break, just go and go and go. Right. And I was like, that's so cool, because the 2 characters had so much struggle. They made really good music together, but they did not understand each other's struggle. Right. Like Catherine had no idea, like just leave him. Right. And Masa had no idea. She's like, how could you be so audacious? Like, how could you be just so like not thinking about your kids and not doing whatever, right? Like, even though the 2 of them struggled, they just didn't understand each other themselves, which I found really interesting, right?
But musically, they were incredible together. They were like, I love playing with her. I love being able to do this. And the fact that they had those phone calls where they would play that song back in, I forgot to sing the song. They would play to each other back and forth. They're like, no, don't use that chord, use this chord instead. Yes. And the fact that they had that was also really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think in terms of just the writing style, there was a lot of stuff that I appreciated with the writer, because she used like jargon and lingo that I understood, and when like explaining something, like that one part where you mentioned, right? It's like Masa writes a piece, plays it for Kim or Catherine, and Catherine's like, this is a really great piece. Change that chord to a major because it brings a lot of contrast. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, that's the word that I always use. I love like the terminology that like she used and grabbed out of it, right? Because I was like, this is normal things that we would talk about: contrast, saturation, color, timbre, right? That kind of stuff, right? A lot of jazz things that I didn't understand, like digging deep. I was like, I guess like it's that whole like you improvise to the point where you just get so intimate, right? And then you come out of it and you come up for air. Like I've never been that person because I've only ever like, you know, like played music on sheets, right?
Yeah,
So
I don't think that's like a jazz term. I mean, I'm not a jazzer, so maybe it is. I don't know. Like
I've heard it in jazz where you dig deep, like when you dig deep into the bass, like when you're really, really feeling it and you're really feeling like the groove of it and the piece of it. It's hard to do that when you're playing Bach or Mozart.
Well, I mean, it depends. Bach's got pretty wicked bass lines.
1 4 5 1.
Not always. Actually, Bach's pretty complicated.
Yeah. I mean, Handel is 1 4 5 1.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And near the end, like I think so at the very end, the last 2 chapters. So in this book, they switch between characters constantly, right? And in the last 2 chapters, it was Maza and then Maza. I was like, oh no, she died. Catherine died, and she died.
Know.
And I was like, what?
And it was so small. It's like the next week she passed away. And you're like, what do you mean she passed away?
Yeah. And they were just saying like it was an aneurysm, and she had just overworked herself to the point where her body just gave up, and it was just like that. I was like, but like I was just like I was so used to being able to go back and forth with the characters that it shocked me when I saw the Maza and Masa side by side. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That was a really good way of showing that. I've read a lot of dual perspectives that don't work.
Yeah.
And the dual perspective in this one worked really well because the characters were so very different. And then, right at that very end, that was just like a boom, boom, right?
Yeah.
And the reaction I think we all had was how much we invested into her. It's like, no, but she's so hard.
Because right at the end, right? Her man is clean. He's not doing drugs anymore. He's finally coming back, helping out with the family, taking the son on gigs and stuff, teaching him music, right? Really being around for her so she can really start doing her thing. She's like, finally, she's getting a break. She gets to do it. And then she dies, right? And it's just like, oh, so sad. It's so sad. But I did like the fact that like, so I think why I was like kind of disappointed in the author not kind of giving us more information on the friendship was because at one point, and I know we have to jump around, but at one point, Liloma, Maz's daughter, right? They're forcing her to go back to Pakistan to get married, and she calls asylum, and Catherine gets her to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Somehow gets her to go through Los Angeles into Vancouver, something like that crazy, right? And I was like, okay, only a really good friend would come in and save someone's daughter.
Yeah. That was like it kind of showed the depth of their friendship. That whole thing I said, when you don't talk to each other, but you know that you'll always be there for one another. And the fact that she's like, just call Auntie Catherine. Get the hell out. Call Auntie Catherine and just and go. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Masa had the foresight to be like, here's some money. Yeah. Do not show anybody that you have this money, but take this money because just in case. And it's scary to think that that is something that parents have to do for some kids. It's kind of terrifying, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. But just like the fact that like at that moment I was like, okay, these two are really, really, really close friends. I wish I had I kind of understand why it wasn't kind of like, you know, expressed more, just because it was really more about the two independent stories, right? Mm-hmm. And then that they shared a friendship. I just wish I knew more about their friendship. I wanted to know more, but their friendship was really all about like the music and the intertwining of how they both just loved playing with each other, right? And how that allowed them to share with each other all of this stuff that they didn't share with other people, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted more.
Yeah, it's also how two people with similar sort of fighting stories can get together and work so well without having to say anything. It's like when you're playing with somebody else and you just get them
Yeah.
And you suddenly click and you just are like, this is my person, or like my person to play music with, right?
Yeah.
Like you have certain people that you would only play certain songs with. You're like, I love playing with them. There's sort of this unspoken connection, and you can't always put a label on it, but you can't figure out why, but you just do. You work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shall we switch to the next character? All right. So back on Maza, and then I'll let you guys talk. So Maza is a mixed child as well, American and Pakistani. Yeah. And father was an American water engineer, I believe, that came in to kind of work on the dams. And he fell in love with the mother. I can't remember the mother's name, unfortunately. And they ran away together. It was during a time where, unfortunately, the culture of the land was that women were property, and they weren't supposed to just be marrying for love or like running away against family wishes, right? But so she was conceived, and she had a very, very, very rich childhood, right? Very distinctly different than Catherine's childhood. Her parents loved each other, and they showed it, and they really pampered her with everything. Like her mom and dad had really great jobs, and then her uncles come and kill them both. And she hides in her aunt and uncle's place for fear that the brothers might take her back, right? But the ironic thing is that the aunt and uncle like kind of ship her off anyways and kind of do all these things anyways. So it's like on the one hand, they're protecting her from those uncles, but they're doing exactly the same thing because they're all kind of in that same cultural mindset that at one point you should just be married and have children and kind of just be done with it, right? But at a young age, her father played a lot of piano, and that's kind of where she was introduced to kind of like the American music. And her mom sang a lot, and they always sang all the time. So that's kind of her enrichment. She had a very enriching household, and she did have lessons. She was allowed to play music all the time. And even when that was changed, her aunt and uncle still gave her lessons. Her aunt, because like she could have lessons and her aunt could go hook up with her like lover, right, on Saturdays. But she still had the opportunity to play and and accompany music, and that's kind of where she met Kamal. And then they had that kind of tumultuous relationship, but that's her upbringing anyway. So like very starkly different than Catherine's upbringing, right? In terms of like having father figures and mother figures and her life being changed, they're both upheavaled, but completely different reasons.
I just found so much of her life just so tragic, and like, oh my god, no! I just want her to be happy. Oh, she has to marry him. Oh, that sucks. Oh, that died. Okay, that sucks. Like everything is just in a lot of ways in a lot of ways I found her stronger than Catherine was, just because she watched her parents be murdered. She was uprooted out from this other house. She was thrown into this school. She was forced to leave the guy that she loves. She is forced to be with this other man, and get married to him and have kids and put on this facade. Like the thing with Catherine is that at least she knew what she was kind of up against right from the beginning, and she knew that she had to fight. Whereas Masa is kind of like, here's another rock in front of your way. Here's another rock. And she just kind of is constantly climbing over all these things throughout the entire story. So like, yeah, I was more invested, I think, in Masa's character than in Catherine's.
Interesting. I was more invested in Catherine's, only because it frustrated me to no end reading Masa's story, because I was like, no, another terrible thing.
Yeah, I think that was like, yeah, it was I don't know. I don't really know which character I liked more. I enjoyed both their stories of struggle, because I enjoyed the fact, like, I mean, I don't enjoy struggle, but I enjoyed the fact that even though they were both met with such like insurmountable obstacles, they were creative. They had to be creative. Like, and Masa, unfortunately, she didn't have a lot of wiggle room to be creative. She was just like, oh, I'm going to Montreal now. I don't speak French, but you're sending me to Montreal. Okay. And then going there and realizing, oh wow, this is actually a really amazing place.
Mm-hmm.
Learning about like all that stuff, and then her aunt and uncle being like, I want to see you, and she's like, oh, maybe they, like, I do want to see them. I kind of miss all those things, and then being thrown into a marriage and realizing if she doesn't marry, she ain't going back.
Yeah.
So she had to be like, I have to get married because I just need to get away from here. I can't be here anymore. Because at one point, her uncle like put like a lock on her door.
Yeah.
She was like, great, I'm trapped again, right?
Yeah.
So and like when they got back, I think the servant wasn't Minumi. I can't remember. The servant took her passport because that's what her uncle told her to do. So she couldn't even leave if she wanted to. Yeah. So she's just, you're like, God, really? But she's like, she had to do what she had to do, right? And then obviously the husband didn't care, right? Yeah. She's just like, you know what? I'll just pretend. I'll just pretend I'm having fun when I'm having sex. I was so mad, right? She was just like, he doesn't care about my pleasure. He only cares about his own pleasure. So I'll just, like grit my teeth and just pretend I'm having a good time. I was like, I hate men like that.
But how many stories have you heard like that is like straight up based on reality, where it's like, okay, you either marry him or we kill you. Like and unfortunately that is one of those choices that some women have to make. It's like you either marry him or you're disowned, or you're we cut off your education or whatever. And unfortunately it's still a reality that we go through. Right. But to also throw in that she had her son and her daughter, the whole I will do anything for my children, and if I have to suffer through this marriage so that my children are not harmed or not taken away, I will suffer through this marriage so my children are not harmed and not taken away.
Yeah. And like the frustrating part, like I said, was just like the whole like oh, I want her to be stronger and bigger than life, right? Just but she couldn't be, right? Because even in her small rebellions, like still being able to play music, still being able to do these gigs while she was married, she was actually risking a huge amount. And the only reason why the husband didn't do anything was because he had a side chick.
Yeah. In London.
Right?
London. Yeah.
So like she was keeping his secret. So he allowed her to do these things because, he was still the man, but like, sure, go do your own thing, right? But like even to the very bitter end, even when he was dying, right?
Yeah.
Still didn't like understand why he had to do all this stuff, right? Like, why do you have to always inconvenience my life, make me look bad? Why do you have to always put other things above our family, right? Yeah. It was like the whole like guilt. Yeah. You're the wife. You're the woman of the house. Take care of my kids. I make enough money for you. You don't have to do this, right? But like not understanding, and it's like it's probably just culture, right? But not understanding that she also went through the exact same type of education in a westernized world where she also learned that she could be abled. She could make her own money. She could make her own way if she wanted to, right? But that whole kind of like grinding between like the cultures that she learned in Canada with the cultures that she tried to leave behind, right? It just caught up with her and it kind of like just trapped her for so long, and her still being able to get things, right? Because even with the kids, thank God she had good friends around her, like her like previous prof, right? Was like, I have this Japanese student, she can't improvise for shit. And I can't save her ass, but you need to teach her how to play jazz, right? And she did it, right? She like met her halfway and being like, oh, and because like the student was like, there's no one as perfect as Bach.
Yeah, right? She ended up being the saving grace when Lilo was sent over to Vancouver, right? So it's like those relationships. What was interesting I found was when she wrote the characters of the son and the daughter, and the son was like a little bit more like dad, and then the daughter was like, screw you guys, I am Western. How dare you? It was interesting to see. I was unnecessarily angry at the son for a long time because I'm like, don't be like your jerk off dad, don't be like your jerk off dad.
But it's hard too, right? Because like he was essentially groomed to be the next heir, right? To take over the business. Yeah. And the father was probably doting on him and praising him because, he had to be groomed in a certain way. So it was so hard because it was obvious that he was struggling because he like there was that one scene where I'll call her Lil. She brings back her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And they meet for the first time, and they know each other because they went to school together, right? Yeah. And the brother was like, I think his brother's Alif, right? Alif was just like, oh, you finally show up. So you're like, you know what? He is like his father, but he loves his sister and he loves his mom, right? And he did really try, like at that one part where like he was going with her to the airport to send Lil back, like he tried to do what the father, right, wanted to do. But if he went through with what the father wanted to do, he would have ran up to her and grabbed her and dragged her out of the airport. Yeah. But he didn't, right? Like, so I still feel like there's like a sense that like he is that person caught between the two worlds. Yeah. Right. But even Masha said like he has tenderness and a kindness his father doesn't have. Yeah. So I feel like I do feel bad for him too. Like on the one hand, like he's just like he has to be a certain way because that's what he's taught. Yeah. But like on the other hand, you're like, oh, aren't you around like other kids? Shouldn't you understand that this is not the only way? But it's what his father tells him is right. Like you can't like he doesn't know to say, oh, you're wrong, right? And you're right. It is funny that the daughter was like, oh, she was becoming a lot more independent, more westernized. But I think it's because she was a daughter, she was a girl. So like the father was just like, you go do whatever. You're not really that important. You're just a girl.
Until she doesn't follow tradition.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, so wasn't it that she was too rebellious? So then they had to they were going to send her to go and visit aunt and uncle to get an idea of what their culture is like because she hasn't had a chance to. And then it was like, oh, you're going to marry somebody.
Yeah.
And they kept her there for, I think, months.
Yeah. No, years, I think.
Yeah. So, she fought to get back.
Yeah. Because what happened was they all went over and they had a good time. And then Masa came back because she had to do a gig with Catherine. And then when Ali came back, he only brought Aleph and he didn't bring the daughter back. And she's like, where's my daughter? And she's like, she's with my grandma and grandpa. She's better off there. You've spoiled her.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's hard, and I'm not saying that it's hard when you're first generation like that. Like Poon, you're first generation Canadian, and so am I. There's a lot of, and I know that we would have different things too, because as a male and as a female growing up in that, but there is always, and there still is, I'll fully honestly say I'm almost 35, and there's still that rub between my parents and I sometimes, where it comes from what they want as tradition versus I'm like, but I'm basically white, guys. I grew up in Canada. The majority of my friends are Caucasian or not Asian, and having them tell me some of these things that are traditional and all that kind of stuff was it is a lot of the childhood, and especially getting married. There was a lot of stuff with that wedding where it's like, okay, so this is the Chinese tradition versus the Western way that we like to do things. Okay, how much of the Chinese am I going to do? How much of this am I going to do? So I think in that case, there's so much sympathy and empathy for Masa coming in from that. Because the things that she has to turn over in her head and the decisions she has to make, I'm like, yeah, I feel you. I know where that kind of comes from. It's hard, man.
Yeah. So. And to remember that when she was growing up in Afghanistan, right, with her parents, Afghanistan was actually a democracy at that time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. They were more democratic than America was at the time, and it was because of the Taliban and the Soviets that it became the way that it is now. Yeah. Right. So growing up, she had liberties that she just took for granted because she was living in this free society, right? Mm-hmm. But her culture caught up with her.
Yeah.
Right. Her family, her mom's family caught up with her. Right. And that was the sad thing, was that she had a glimpse of what it was to be free, to be a girl and just wear dresses and not have to hide her her face or anything. Yeah. And then it got taken away from her. And then she had that freedom again in Montreal, and then it got taken away from her. Right. It was always given and taken, give and take, give and take. And I think
she found a way to work around it. The one that I just admired with her was when she got sent to Montreal first, And she was like, okay, I'll take some of these courses. And she's like, no, actually, I'm interested in music, and like changed over her a bunch of credits. And she was like, I'm just going to like fully study. And they knew, oh, she's studying in Canada, but like, what did that actually mean? They weren't really checking up on her. So she could find that wiggle room, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, and she was really lucky because she had such a cool French-Canadian roommate, Monique, right? Because she was the one that convinced her. She's like, they're not going to know. How are they going to know? Short from them coming here, just do what you want. Like, do what you want. And it was like kind of like cool, like, because she did have that early influence in such like and she was highly feminist, right? She was talking like all those plays that she was writing, and I wish that she kind of had come back later on, but they were saying how like for like Masa, she was her first best friend, like the person that really stuck out for her and protected her, and like she was the one that got her bank account. Remember, she was like brought the brute to RBC, and she's like, this girl needs a bank account, and they're like, we need her father to sign it. She's like, oh, I'm gonna cause a stink until you give her a bank account.
Okay.
Right, and then the manager was like, oh, fine, and then Maza was like, why do you have it cause a stink? And then the thing was, she's like, this happened to me too. They asked me for my father's signature, and I caused a stink to do this. So she understood that there still was those traditions that even she had to get through. So I think there was a lot of similarities actually between Monique that we never really got a chance to like understand, because she was so bombastic, right? She was so full of life and so vivacious, right? But
so
she
I guess through that, what you're saying is with a lot of the characters, the side characters, is like you just wanted more. Like, understandably, you only have so much room to explore, and really the focus was a character study on both Masa and Catherine. But like, there were some characters that you were just like, I want to know more about them. I want to know more.
Yeah, because like,
am I the only one that really, really wanted more from Kamal? Like, I'm sorry, by the end, I'm like, thank you, God. I've been waiting like 300 pages for you guys to be together.
Like that time where he he knocked on the door and she opens and it's him, and she's like, is that salt air? Salt water? Is that his skin that I smell? I was like, and then the entire time they were just like rubbing shoulders and like not touching, and I was like, oh, just fuck already.
Like, you love each other. Oh my God. I think by the end I was like, sweet Jesus, it's about time. every time he came back into it, I'm like, okay, so she just lives for this like letter or this tiny like a postcard or whatever, like these tiny little things, and to hold that memory of him from their time in Afghanistan, to hold that memory for so long, and for him to hold the memory for so long, I was just like, oh my God, here's the romance. That tiny bit. I was like, tiny bit of romance.
What was like the only happy part in the whole book? And you're like, yay!
I know. I was like, thank you, God. There is some form of happiness in this ending. All your suffering was worth it.
I will say there was one thing that ticked me off. I was just like, okay, so we understand that you guys both had a thing, and I understand that you guys both still feel for each other. Like, how dare he come into her life and be like, oh, yo, I'm back now. I know you still love me. I don't really care if you have a family, but I'm going to come here, and I know you love me. I know, like, and all that stuff, and I love you. I'm going to ruin your life. I know you have a husband and everything. I was like, God damn it. Like, men.
you do think it's that, like, but he did say, like, if you don't want to see me ever again, God, just say the word and I'm gone. I just need to see you once. He did say that. So I will give him props for that. But again, that is like the one of those things in romance songs where, like, I just need to see you one time. If you turn me away, I'll go away. And they're like, no, come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I like the fact that it was her that initiated the sex. Because like the next one is like, it's time. She's like, it's time. He's like, are you sure? She's like, yes. I was like, yes.
What was really good about that, right, was her whole sex life was basically her husband like, oh, well, we have to do this because we're married, and thank you for pleasuring me. And she's like, ugh, right? So this was really nice for her to have that change around the I decide that we have it. Mm-hmm. I have control, and I'm going to enjoy this because I'm actually interested in this.
But the fact that also that she's comfortable enough to do that. because she doesn't initiate anything in the other ones, because it's always the waiting. It's always the nice, quiet, submissive woman. Whereas with Kamal, she's like, I can be myself. I can want this, and that's okay. And I'm not going to be judged for it or be told I'm not supposed to do this.
Which is lovely.
Which is lovely.
Yeah. So I think like I mean, both characters gets to that happy ending. Unfortunately, one person's life gets cut short. But I think it's just that like going through the entire book and struggling with these characters, like they get to that final thing and you're like, yeah, girl, you deserve this.
Right.
You know?
So like,
we deserve this. Yeah. The readers of this like terrible, woeful tale, we want some happiness at the end.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, aside from Catherine dying, actually, like a lot of ways, the whole ending was quite satisfactory in a lot of ways, except for, that. But it's kind of like, at least Catherine had made it in some form. Like she has recorded stuff. She has like her album. She's going to go out on tour. Her husband's finally good to go. Like her kids are fine. Everybody's good. Her mom, like she made up with her mom and all that kind of stuff before her mom passed away. Like in a lot of ways, everything was good. And then, that happened. And then Masa, everything kind of figured out. Your husband's dead. Cool. You're fighting with the guy that you love. Your son and daughter are out of that reign of control. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was sad. Yeah, you were like, it's satisfying because none of it felt like Deus Ex Machina at all. It didn't feel like it was just like, oh, and everything was fine. Like everything felt like there was a struggle there. They fought, and then information was revealed, right? Yeah. People understood, and it just like slowly this is kind of like how it was settled in the end. And it was like, this is nice. I kind of like where it ended.
Yeah. And the word that when you say slowly, it's not kind of that hackneyed, oh, I have to make editor's note. Boom, here's the ending. It was nice because it actually flowed into the ending as opposed to be like, all right, I'm just going to add these last 20 pages. And that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. Good job, Poon.
I mean, it was recommended to me. I mean, I know we spent a lot of time talking about the characters and not much about the music.
Yeah, but the book was about the characters.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
Yeah. And I think like the music aspect was like in other books, like music is very forefront. In this one, I think music was the lifeline, really, right? Yeah. They made music to survive, literally and figuratively and emotionally, right? And that's how they found themselves and breathed new life into their character. It's just like whenever they went too far away from it, they always went back to it and they found themselves again. So it was very subtle. Like we had a lot of we talked about how like they use a lot of like jargon and stuff. But in the end, it was just there. It was just part of their life. It wasn't like it was a big part, but it wasn't like the focal point.
It wasn't jarring, and the author seamlessly made it part of the story.
Yeah. Without throwing it in your face.
Yeah, exactly. And we weren't like, oh, what? Oh, like it wasn't jarring. It was very
Yeah.
It was very well written. Like you said, everything weaved together really nicely, and you're reading and that was the one thing with the alternative viewpoints. It was kind of like I didn't get lost. That's sometimes really hard with going from one to another. Was like it's like, okay, so I have to go back to the other one. What happened? Oh, okay. It was easy to kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
So that was really pleasant. Thank you for that, Mrs. Echlin.
I wasn't expecting that. Honestly, I read the back cover and I was like, ooh, lesbians. Right? Because they're making music together. Ooh. I was like, ooh.
Really
romance music?
That it didn't go lesbian because I always want strong friendships in books and strong friendships between same sex where it doesn't devolve into, oh, actually, surprise, they're gay for each other. But you can have close friendships. Like we have them. We have close friendships with people of our gender, and it's not romantic. And it's really nice to read this strong friendship.
Yeah, and it was really cool too because I remember I was reading through this book and I was just like, oh, So Masa actually went through like very rigorous kind of like, what we call Western music training, right? She knows all of that stuff. She knows about music history.
Yeah.
Her saving grace was the fact that when she first started learning music, it was culture, like traditional music, where it was very highly improvised. Yeah. All of the music was highly improvised. It was folk songs, right? And just making up melodies and creating it. So she already grew up from that kind of like improvisation. So jazz just made sense. Like it was an evolution of her own art, but she came from that like highly educated, kind of like knowledgeable background, but she still found like the comfort in jazz that like Catherine did. And they, even though they both came from completely different lives, they both respected each other and they loved each other's music. They were like the biggest fans for each other. It was like really cool to see. All right, I think we're good. I'm glad I picked something good.
You picked good things before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what was one that was? Oh no, soul music was terrible.
That Austrian one, the loser. That was great.
There was a loser. There was.
No, soul music was sucky.
It was interesting. It was kind of weird.
Well, it was a problem because it was part of the cycle of the books and stuff. And yeah. This was fun. I
liked it. I really liked it. Yeah.
So I was really glad that it was a good recommendation.
I'm glad that it read really quickly, because if this book slogged on with the tragedy after tragedy,
oh yeah,
at the end of March for me when I was reading it, I don't know if I could have read it. I needed light books where not a lot consequential happens, and this book was very real, but it read quickly, and that was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like I think a third way through the book, I was just like, is it going to be terrible the entire way through? I hate this. I feel terrible. I feel all men should die.
Oh
no, they were terrible. No, but like I said, it was just the times, right? It was just how it was.
Yeah.
And I was also glad I read quick, because it was like there was tragedy after tragedy, but I like that it was like this happened, explained it. It was really matter of fact about a lot of stuff. Like it didn't tell you like, oh, it could have happened this way, whatever. It was just like, this is what happened. This is what had to happen. There's some explanations here and there. Next.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of it was just like, I need to decide to fight for my life. I need to decide because I need to put money, like food on the table. There was no like, it felt bad, but like, you just got to do it. Right. Like when Catherine's mom was dying, she was just like, it was a year of her slowly dying, but she had to be there. And that was just the reality. Right. And even then there was like sprinkles of like beauty. Right. It's like they watched the old videos that they made. They listened to the old music. Right. They pulled her mom up to the balconies to see the stars and stuff. They still had beautiful moments in that tragedy when she passed away. And like she learned that her mom had a lover and she was happy. Right. And stuff. And you're like, oh, like this is really sad, but like she's like there were still happy moments in the tragedies, right? Like even with Masa, it's like her having her choice taken away, she still could make music, and her children were still her biggest fans.
Yeah, which is really cool. Yeah.
Anyways, I think we're done talking about this book. Amanda, it's your choice, right? So, what do you have for us?
So I found this in my library in an e-format. And it's a graphic novel, and it's called Showtime at the Apollo.
You have to unblur your background.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Give me a sec. All right. Sorry, my bad. I didn't think that'd be part of the background if it was like directly in front of me. Okay, so it's called Showtime at the Apollo.
Ooh, I love the art style.
And it is all about, I believe, I haven't actually like taken a look into it, but I believe it's all about the, I don't want to say all of color, but it might be. I don't think so, maybe. Sorry, anyway, it's all the entertainers and musicians that have been at the Apollo. So you can tell it's music because this is one of the screens. Oh my God. The musical screen. And
this is so cool.
And then when you go to the chapters, sorry, it's taking a long time to get to the chapters. When the chapters, it talks of, holy crap. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and like the bopping music and the rockin' music. And the beginning has like Elvis in it. And so I found this because it was actually in my local library. And it was under one of the new releases. So I saw that. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And I'm like, oh yeah, book club. We've never had a graphic novel before.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I assume that this is probably it's 254 pages, but you know, it's a graphic novel. But it's, I don't know. I haven't really looked through it yet. I have ordered like my actual copy online, but yeah, it's straight up nice muted blacks and whites and blues.
So cool.
So
this is gonna be so much fun. This is so different.
Yeah.
And you know what? This would be something too that I would lend out to older students too. Like depending on how good it is. If there was a student that was like, I'm really interested in jazz, I'd just hand them this graphic novel and be like, here's a graphic novel.
Yeah, I don't know if I think it's a lot of it's like rock and roll. It's like, okay, so it got swinging. It's got stuff called Harlem before the Apollo and soul music and funk, how the Apollo got its groove back. And those are just like the chapters it has. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can get it at Indigo. I think it's like $24, something like that. I've ordered my copy because I want my own. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay. Awesome.
It's just under $25, which is the free rate for shipping. So you have to buy something else.
My orders are always $50, so I have no problems with that.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Mine are always
I saw that. I'm like, that is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a graphic novel. We've never done one before.
That is fun.
Yeah. I mean, and it kind of fits with our whole like, let's keep with something light. This is gonna be kind of fun. Like, I've never actually read a graphic novel before in my life, so this will be my first graphic novel ever. Yeah. So I'm very excited about it.
There's some amazing graphic novels out there.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, it's just like, I remember like it was just like 4 or 5 years ago that I started reading like high fantasy and sci-fi.
That's
like
true.
I hadn't read anything up until then, and I just started with that genre. So like there's all this stuff. So I'm really excited about this because I don't really truly understand like the main difference between graphic novel and like comic strip. I've done a lot of like manga, right? But I know that there's like a very clear distinct difference because like a graphic novel is more like story driven rather than like action, right? So I'm very excited.
I mean, if you've read manga, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, manga I think is essentially like just the Japanese word for graphic novel.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah.
This is really nice. It's going to be so different. It's going to be awesome. So I think for this one,
stumbled upon it.
Yeah, we'll figure out when we're going to meet. I don't think this is going to take too long. I think the hard thing is just when we're going to get the copies of the book.
Yeah. Right? I'm going to read this copy now, and then I'll probably reread it once the paperback comes through. But considering everything, I'd tack on like a week or two when it comes to Indigo.
Yeah, because I'm gonna see if the Victoria branch has it, because they do curbside drop off, right, or pick up. So if they have it, I could just bust down and grab it. But if not, I can always just like it's what, ebook as well.
This one is I have an app called Libby, and it just lets me borrow straight out of my library. So this is actually the Fraser Valley Regional Library copy. So I actually have it for 3 weeks, and I can just read it whenever.
Okay, I'll look for the digital one, and I'll see if I can find it. If not, like let's say we'll just keep it. I mean, we don't meet for like 2 months anyway, so like we have tons of time to keep this book.
A lot of time, yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining us. This has been really fun. It's been such a long time. I haven't seen these two girls in such a long time, but I'm glad we finally got a chance to catch up. I'll post this video soon, but hope everyone has a good night. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.